1. Ezekiel Romo. Ezekiel Romo was one of those names that carried weight in Los Angeles gang culture. He wasn't just a regular street gangster, he was a leader in the Blythe Street Gang, one of the city's most violent street gangs. On top of that, he worked as an enforcer for the Mexican Mafia, also called La M, which is one of the most powerful and feared prison gangs in California. His job meant handling orders, controlling drug trade inside jail systems, and even organizing killings. For years, Romo lived a life built around violence and power. He ended up being convicted for ordering multiple murders. This sealed his fate with a life sentence in prison. By 2024, he was locked up at Centinela State Prison in Imperial County, California. You would think prison might mean safety from the streets, but for people like Romo, prison is just another battleground. Gangs operate strongly inside those walls, and the higher your rank, the more enemies you have. On July 22, 2024, Romo's story came to a sudden and bloody end. While in the prison day room, 3 other inmates attacked him. Armed with sharp homemade weapons, they stabbed him multiple times in a coordinated attack. Guards tried to respond, but it was over fast. Romo died in the very place he was supposed to serve out his sentence. The murder wasn't random. In prison politics, nothing ever really is. Some believed the Mexican Mafia itself ordered the hit, maybe because Romo had fallen out of favor. Others suspected rival gangs or inmates with grudges. Either way, it showed how dangerous life is inside prison for even the most feared gang leaders. Romo had power, influence, and a reputation, but none of that saved him when the moment came. But if you think being taken out by 3 inmates is wild, wait until you hear what happened to a gang founder who was betrayed by his own crew. 2. Devlin Gazoo Stringfellow. Devlin Stringfellow, also known as Gazoo, was one of the men who helped start Public Enemy No. 1, or Penny. This group was a white supremacist gang that began in Southern California and spread through prisons. They mixed racist beliefs with organized crime, selling drugs, running extortion rackets, and using violence to stay in control. Being a founder, Stringfellow had respect, but he also carried the risks that came with being high up in such a violent world. By 2018, Stringfellow was locked up in California State Prison, Sacramento. On the outside, his name was tied to Penny's bloody history. Inside, he was still known as a leader figure, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Prison gangs are complicated, alliances shift, trust breaks, and sometimes even your own people turn against you. In January 2018, during yard time, Stringfellow was attacked. 2 inmates, who were also reported to be white supremacists, rushed him with homemade knives. They stabbed him repeatedly, and by the time officers rushed in, it was too late. Stringfellow collapsed and died on the spot. What made the story shocking was that he wasn't killed by rivals from a different gang. It was people from within the same ideology. That showed how brutal and unpredictable prison life really is. Some said it was due to an internal power struggle in Penny, with other members wanting to remove him. Others thought personal grudges or broken loyalties were behind it. And that's nothing compared to what happened to one of America's most feared mob bosses, who didn't even last a single day in prison. 3. James Whitey Bulger. James Whitey Bulger was one of the most feared and famous mob bosses in America. He ran the Winter Hill Gang in Boston, controlling drugs, extortion, and violence across the city for years. Bulger wasn't just a gangster, though. He was also secretly working with the FBI as an informant. He gave them information on rival gangs while still committing crimes himself. That double life made him both powerful and hated. To many in the underworld, being labeled a rat is worse than anything else. Bulger's reign finally ended in 2011, when he was caught after years on the run. In 2013, he was convicted of 11 murders along with other crimes. At 83 years old, he was sentenced to life in prison. Many thought he would just spend his last years quietly locked up. But Bulger's enemies hadn't forgotten what he had done decades earlier. In October 2018, Bulger was transferred to USP Hazleton, a federal prison in West Virginia. This prison already had a reputation for being rough and violent. Shockingly, within less than a day of arriving, Bulger was killed. Fellow inmates attacked him inside his cell. They used a lock tied to a belt to beat him repeatedly until he died. The attack was quick but brutal, leaving Bulger unrecognizable. Investigators later said it was a premeditated hit. One of the men accused of the murder had ties to the Boston Mafia, a group Bulger had betrayed while working as an FBI informant. His past had finally caught up with him, even though it had been decades since the original betrayals. But across the world, a feared South African hitman didn't fall to gang rivals. He was killed by the very people meant to guard him. 4. Abraham Wilson. Abraham Wilson's name became connected to one of South Africa's most feared prison gangs, the 28s. He was believed to be a hitman for Ralph Stanfield, a powerful Cape Town gang boss with links to both the 28s and the Firm Gang. These groups are not just ordinary street gangs. They control money, drugs, and murders inside and outside of South African prisons. Wilson's reputation was that of an enforcer, someone who carried out violent jobs to keep the gang's power strong. By early 2025, Wilson was locked up in Pollsmoor Prison in Cape Town. Pollsmoor is infamous for overcrowding and gang control. He was awaiting trial on gang-related charges, but he never made it to court. His life ended violently while still behind bars. In January 2025, an emergency support team stormed his cell in what was supposed to be a raid. According to reports and inmate testimonies, things turned brutal. Wilson was allegedly beaten by the officers. Witnesses said he was kicked to the floor and assaulted badly inside his own cell. By the time it was over, Wilson was dead. His killing shocked South Africa because it wasn't rival gangsters who took him out. It was prison staff. Usually, when a gang member dies in jail, it's linked to rival gangs or internal disputes. But in this case, the people responsible were supposed to be maintaining order. This raised serious questions about how prisons are run and whether officers abuse their power. Some believed the raid was planned specifically to eliminate Wilson because of his ties to Stanfield and the 28s. Others thought it was simply excessive force that went too far. Whatever the truth, his death showed just how dangerous Pollsmoor Prison is, not just because of gangs, but also because of the authorities themselves. Still, nothing is as shocking as the moment one of Colombia's most powerful drug lords was hugged in the prison yard, then shot 7 times in the head. 5. Helmer El Pacho Herrera. Helmer Herrera, known as El Pacho, was one of the most powerful drug lords in Colombia during the 1990s. He was a co-founder of the Cali cartel, which at its peak controlled most of the world's cocaine supply. While Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel were known for wild violence, the Cali cartel was smarter and more businesslike. They bribed politicians, worked with international networks, and quietly made billions of dollars. El Pacho was a big part of that success. Herrera lived a life of wealth and power, but it couldn't last forever. By the mid-1990s, Colombia's government, with U.S. support, was cracking down on the drug cartels. Escobar was killed in 1993, and soon the Cali cartel leaders, including El Pacho, were captured. He was sentenced to a long prison term and sent to La Modelo prison in Bogotá, one of the country's most dangerous prisons. Even inside prison, El Pacho lived with influence. He was still respected and feared. But that power didn't save him. On November 6, 1998, during exercise time, an inmate approached him in the yard. At first, it looked like a normal, friendly greeting. The man hugged Herrera, but in the next second pulled out a hidden gun. At point-blank range, he shot Herrera 7 times in the head. El Pacho dropped instantly and died on the spot. Other inmates quickly subdued the gunman, but the damage was done. The fact that someone smuggled a gun into a high-security prison shocked the public and showed how deep corruption went. Many believed the murder was ordered by enemies, either rivals from the drug world or even people connected to the old Cali cartel who no longer wanted Herrera around. And speaking of cartels, you won't believe how El Chapo's own brother was executed inside Mexico's most secure prison. 6. Arturo El Pollo Guzman Loera. Arturo Guzman Loera, nicknamed El Pollo, was the younger brother of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, the famous drug lord of the Sinaloa cartel. While El Chapo became a global name, Arturo also played an important role in the cartel. He worked as a lieutenant, helping run cartel operations and supporting his brother's rise to power. Being part of the Guzman family made him important, but it also made him a target. In 2001, Arturo was arrested and sent to Altiplano, Mexico's maximum security prison. This prison was supposed to be one of the toughest in the country, designed to hold the most dangerous criminals. But in Mexico, prison walls don't always mean safety. For powerful cartel members, jail is full of enemies, rivals, and corrupt officials willing to take bribes. In late 2004, Arturo's life came to a shocking end. While meeting with his lawyer in the prison's visiting area, another inmate managed to sneak in a pistol. Somehow, even in a maximum security facility, a gun was smuggled inside. During the meeting, the attacker pulled out the weapon and shot Arturo multiple times. He died instantly in front of his lawyer. The murder exposed just how broken the prison system was. If a gun could make it into a supposedly secure place like Altiplano, it showed corruption ran deep. Many people believed the attack was ordered by rival cartels who wanted to weaken El Chapo's family. Others thought it might have been part of internal power struggles within the drug world. But if you thought smuggling a gun into prison was crazy, just wait until you hear what went down during a violent Nevada prison riot. 7. Zacaria Luz. Zacaria Luz was a member of the Aryan Warriors, a white supremacist prison gang in Nevada. The Aryan Warriors are known for being violent and organized inside the prison system. They control drugs, extortion, and often carry out brutal attacks to maintain their power. Luz wasn't just another member, he was a street-level leader, which meant he had influence over others and was part of planning how the gang operated behind bars. He was serving time for serious charges, including murder and racketeering. In prison, those kinds of crimes gave him status, but they also made life dangerous. Ely State Prison, where he was locked up, is Nevada's toughest maximum security prison. It's a place where gang wars and riots are common. For people like Luz, being there meant constant risk. In July 2024, Ely erupted in violence. A riot broke out, involving multiple inmates, and it quickly turned deadly. During the chaos, Luz was attacked. He was stabbed several times with sharp homemade weapons. He wasn't the only one. 2 other inmates were also stabbed to death during the same riot. All 3 men were serving time for violent crimes, and all 3 ended up dying from their injuries. The attack showed just how dangerous prison life can be. Inmates create weapons from anything they can find, and when violence starts, guards often can't stop it until it's already too late. Luz's position as part of the Aryan Warriors may have made him a target, either from rivals or from people inside his own circle. Gangs often have internal conflicts, and leaders sometimes get removed violently. And that wasn't even the bloodiest part, because the Mexican Mafia itself saw 2 of its own powerful enforcers stabbed to death just weeks apart. 8. Joseph Capone Hutchinson. Joseph Hutchinson, known by his nickname Capone, was a high-ranking enforcer in the Mexican Mafia, or La M. This gang is one of the most powerful prison organizations in the U.S., especially in California. Their power reaches far beyond prison walls. They control drug dealing, extortion, and even order murders on the streets. Hutchinson's job was to collect taxes from drug dealers inside Los Angeles jails. Basically, if someone was selling drugs, they had to pay a cut to the Mexican Mafia. Refuse to pay, and you faced violence. This made Hutchinson a feared figure. but it also put him in constant danger. In August 2023, Hutchinson was being held in LA County's Men's Central Jail, one of the largest and roughest jails in the country. Despite his high position, he wasn't safe. One day, while inside his cell, another inmate attacked him. Armed with a shank, a homemade knife, the attacker stabbed Hutchinson multiple times. He didn't survive the wounds and died before guards could save him. His death shocked many because he was such a key figure for La M. But it also wasn't surprising. Mexican mafia politics are brutal. Leaders are often taken out when others want to move up in power, or when disputes break out inside the gang. Some believed Hutchinson's killing was tied to internal conflicts, while others thought it might have been personal revenge. But here's where it gets even more brutal, because only weeks earlier, another longtime Mexican mafia veteran met the exact same fate. 9. Michael Torres. Michael Torres was a longtime member of the Mexican Mafia, also called La M. This prison gang is one of the most feared groups in the United States, with power both inside and outside prison walls. La M controls drug sales, extortion, and violent attacks, especially in California. Torres had been involved for years, making him a veteran and someone with respect in the gang world. He was serving a life sentence at Folsom State Prison in California, a place that has a long history of being tough and violent. Folsom is filled with some of the state's most dangerous inmates, and Torres was no stranger to that world. Even though he had survived for decades in the Mexican Mafia, his past caught up with him in 2023. On July 7, 2023, Torres was attacked inside the prison by other inmates. Armed with shanks, homemade knives, they stabbed him to death. The attack was quick and brutal, and Torres didn't have a chance to fight back. For someone who had built a life around being feared, his death came suddenly, showing that even veterans of La M aren't untouchable. His killing happened just weeks before another Mexican Mafia member, Joseph Capone Hutchinson, was murdered in LA County Jail. The closeness of the two killings made people wonder if something bigger was happening inside the gang. Some thought it was a power struggle, with older leaders being removed so younger members could take control. Others believed it might have been part of ongoing rivalries within the prison system. And while that was unfolding in the US, Australia's most notorious crime boss was about to face his own shocking end. 10. Carl Williams. Carl Williams was one of Australia's most notorious criminals. He was a central figure in Melbourne's gangland wars during the late 90s and early 2000s. These wars were violent, filled with shootings, drug deals, and revenge killings. Williams made millions through drug trafficking, especially ecstasy, and he also ordered multiple murders to strengthen his control. His life became so infamous that it inspired the hit Australian TV show Underbelly, which told the story of the gangland wars. Williams was eventually caught and sentenced to life in prison for several murders. By 2010, he was serving his sentence at Barwon Prison, a high-security facility in Victoria. Even though he was behind bars, he was still a high-profile figure, and there were constant rumors about him possibly working with police to give information about other criminals. On April 19, 2010, Williams was attacked in the prison's exercise yard. Two inmates ambushed him from behind and used a piece of metal from an exercise bike as a weapon. They struck him repeatedly, and the blows were so severe that Williams died at the scene. The attack shocked the country and once again proved that prison offers no real protection for famous criminals. Many believed Williams's death was not random. Some thought it was revenge for the murders he had ordered in the past. Others believed it was because he had started cooperating with police, and other criminals wanted to silence him before he revealed more secrets. Whatever the reason, his killing ended the story of one of Australia's most talked-about gangsters. Which one shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more insane true crime stories like this, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss the next one.